Have you ever wondered if AI would be capable of recreating real-world tactical styles for FM24? Arsène Wenger is without doubt one of the greatest managers of all time. His managerial career would begin in 1984 as he took charge of Nancy in Ligue 1. Nancy were a club with a substandard playing squad and little money, but despite this, Wenger would perform well enough to catch the attention of Monaco, who he would join in 1987. Upon his arrival, Wenger had a clear plan, signing players such as Glenn Hoddle, Patrick Battiston and Mark Haitley. In 1988, he would sign George Weah. Despite being at Monaco for 7 years, they would only win Ligue 1 once and added a Coupe de France before his departure to Japan. Whilst in Japan, he would manage Nagoya Grampus Eight. Wenger would build a team of local players and foreign imports to win the Emperor's Cup and the Japanese Super Cup. This would prove to be the achievement that caught the eye of Arsenal. David Dein would appoint Wenger in August 1996, and it turned out to be an inspired appointment. During his time at Arsenal, he would transform them into a domestic winning machine. They would win 7 FA Cups, 3 Premier League titles. They would twice win the double in the 97-98 season and in 2001-2002. The most impressive thing though, Wenger would achieve an invincible season as he took his 03-04 Arsenal team to complete a 38-game campaign undefeated. Can AI replicate the glory days of Arsene Wenger's tactical genius? Will it too be able to achieve an invincible season? In today's video, we're going to put the abilities of AI to the test. So the first thing that I would do is head over to Twitter, but I would seek Grocks Advice. I would type in, "Can you build me an Arsene Wenger tactic for FM24? This was Grocks' response. Creating an Arsene Wenger inspired tactic for Football Manager 2024 involves emulating the key principles of his Arsenal teams, particularly from his most iconic periods such as the Invincibles era or his later possession-based sides. Wenger's philosophy emphasised fluid attacking football, quick transitions, technical ability and nurturing young talent. Below I'll outline a tactic inspired by his 03-04 Invincibles, which was a 4-4-2, and that is the tactic we're going to be focusing on, but it does state that you could also go on to adapt this into a 4-2-3-1 possession-based approach. Both of these are tailored to FM24's mechanics with guidance on formation, roles, instructions and player attributes. It then goes on to say that the first tactic that we are going to be using is Wenger's 03-04 Invincibles 4-4-2 tactic. This tactic recreates the balanced counter-attacking 4-4-2 that led Arsenal to an unbeaten Premier League season, featuring players like Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Patrick Vieira and a rock-solid defence. It then goes on to say that the formation will be a 4-4-2 flat. So, let's jump into FM24 and create the Arsene Wenger 4-4-2. Here we go then, I've loaded up FM24, I've gone in and selected a preset 4-4-2 flat, and I've customised it using Grocks instructions. I'm going to go through the tactic and break it down so you can see what Grok has told me to do. Firstly, we're going to go through the 3 main categories of in possession, in transition and out of possession so you can see what is under the hood of the tactic. And then I'm going to go through the player roles and the player instructions. Right then, to kick off, we are in the top left hand corner where we have a tactical style of custom. The mentality for this tactic is balanced. The in possession will look like this, and Grok's instructions were: shape should be fairly wide to stretch the play and use the wingers, approach should be short passing to work the ball into the box, tempo slightly higher to enable quick transitions, creative freedom should be more expressive to reflect Wenger's flair, and passing focus should be mixed to balance direct balls to Henry and short passing. It then goes on to say the in transition should look like this: counter press should be yes to win the ball back quickly, counter should be yes to exploit transitions, a hallmark of the Invincibles, and distribution should be to fullbacks or to centre backs. The out of possession will then look like this, where it says defensive line should be standard, pressing line should be standard, pressing intensity should be slightly more pressing, mid block not high press, and defensive width force the opposition outside. So those are the three main categories. Let's run through the players and their roles. So starting off at the back, you'll have a goalkeeper set to defend. On the left, you'll have a fullback set to support. Their instructions are run wide with the ball and get further forward. You'll then have two central defenders. The first one is set to take more risks, shoot less often, dribble less and hold position. And the one on the right is just shoot less often, dribble less and hold position. On the right hand side, you'll have a wing back set to support with cross more often, stay wider and get further forward. On the left, you have a winger set to support with dribble more, cross more often and stay wider. You then have a box-to-box midfielder with get further forward and roam from position. You then have a deep-lying playmaker set to support with shoot less often, take more risks and hold position. And on the right, you have a winger set to attack with cut inside with the ball, dribble more, cross more often, cross on the byline, get further forward and stay wider. Next up top, you will have a deep-lying forward set to support with hold up the ball, take more risks and move into the channels. And finally, an advanced forward at the top of the pitch with roam from position and move into the channels. So that is how Grok has set up our 4-4-2. It thinks this is the way that the Invincibles played. Hopefully that is going to transition when we test this tactic into a winning formation. But before I test this tactic, I really want to know your thoughts and opinions on what you think is going to happen with this 4-4-2 tactic. I'm going to put it through its paces with three of Arsene Wenger's former teams, Arsenal, Monaco and Nancy. Which do you think this tactic will suit the best? Who do you think will get the most performance out of the 4-4-2? Whilst you're down in the comment section below, don't forget to like this video and smash the subscribe button. Also, check out the rest of the AI Tactics series. Right then, let's put this tactic to the test. To kick the results roundup off, we're going to start off by looking at the smallest club that we tested this tactic with. That would be Nancy, and they play their club football in the Championnat de France National. And in fact, they would go on to win the Championnat de France National. They would have a record of 34 games played, 24 wins, 8 draws, 2 losses, 71 goal difference and 80 points as they were crowned champions. They would go on to win the league by an impressive 14 points. When we look at some of the numbers and statistics from across the season, Sidi Cisse would be the top goal scorer in the league with 23 goals. Benjamin Gommel would get 15. Gommel, though, would lead the way in the average ratings with a 7.77, Kamara 7.70, Cisse 7.54 and Bouabdelli would get a 7.37. Gommel would have 18 assists, Kamara with 13 and Bouabdelli would get 11. In terms of Player of the Match awards, it would be Benjamin Gommel with 9, Kamara with 5. Clean sheets, Giannorio would get 12 clean sheets across the season. Let's have a look at the other competitions to see how they did. So the only other competition they played in was the Coupe de France. And they would get through to the 6th round where they'd be knocked out by Entente, Fanes, Aloin Football Club. So, decent in the league, not so good in the Cup. Let's go and have a look at the Data Hub to see some of the numbers from across the season. So looking at the data, we can see they would score 3 goals per game. They would concede 0.91 goals per game. They would average 16.59 shots per game. Have a pass completion ratio of 88.93%. Finally, let's move on to the squad and look at who would be putting in all of the numbers. So Sidi Cisse would be top of the pile. He would go on to score 30 goals and have 11 assists. He would have a 7.20 average rating across the season. Next up would be Gommel, who would go on and score 29 goals. And more importantly, he would have 25 assists. And that is impressive because it turns out he had 54 goal contributions in 65 games. He would score a 7.45 average rating across the season and 8.86 across the last 5 games. Moving further down, we have Bouabdelli with 15 goals and 13 assists. You have Carlier with 14 goals. Even further down than that, Kamara would get 16 assists. So you can see that in this 4-4-2, they do have the front men that will score the goals, but the creative players from out wide, certainly Gommel and Kamara, considering he's a defensive midfielder, you can see that there is creativity all in this team. Next up, we are staying in France, but we are moving on to Monaco. Monaco obviously play in Ligue 1, and we find them finishing second in Ligue 1, only behind PSG. When we look at their record, they would play 34, win 24 of those games, draw once, lose 9 times, have a 37 goal difference, and they would score 73 points. Now, that would be 10 points behind league winners PSG. They would finish level on points with Marseille, but they would finish in second place thanks to a 1 goal better goal difference. Looking at some of the stats and numbers to come out of the season, we can see Breel Mbolo was the top goal scorer with 18 goals. Wilfried Singo would get a 7.61 average rating, with Mbolo getting 7.50. In terms of assists, Wilfried Singo would get 14, Golovin would get 12, and in terms of Player of the Match awards, it'd be 7 for Singo and 6 for Breel Mbolo. Let's have a look then at the other competitions that they would take part in. They would take part in 3 other competitions, starting off with the Champions League. A hugely disappointing campaign would see them get knocked out in the league phase. In the Coupe de France, they'd get knocked out in the semi-finals by Marseille. And in the Trophée des Champions, they would finish as runners-up. So, another team that has performed well in the league, but not so well in the Cup competitions. Let's look at the data hub to try and see where the numbers across the season would point us to. You can see that goals per game is 2.44, conceded per game is 1.35, shots per game on average is 14.5, that have an 88.6% pass completion ratio. Looking into the squad then to see who would be contributing the most in terms of the numbers. Breel Mbolo would lead the way for goals. He would go on to score 30 and assist 4 times. Wilfried Singo, though, is the surprise package. He would go on to have 21 goals and 18 assists in all competitions. Balogun would get 19 goals and 7 assists. Golovin 13 goals and 17 assists. Minamino 10 goals and 4 assists. Further down, you can see that Henrique from left back would go on to have 22 assists. So once again, we have players such as Singo and Henrique who are really contributing to the team from the wide areas, certainly from those wing back areas. The creative players, once again, are players like Golovin and Akliouche, and you can see that they are spreading the goals across the 2 forwards. It bodes well for the tactic when numbers look like this. And finally, we are in England to look at the Premier League, and we find that Arsenal have become champions of England. They have a record of 38 games played, 24 wins, 7 draws, 7 losses, a goal difference of 44, and they would score 79 points to win the title. That would win them the league by 2 points from Manchester City, and most importantly for Arsenal fans, they'd finish 2 places ahead of Tottenham and 5 points clear of them in the league. Now, it's not the invincible season that Arsene Wenger achieved with his own actual team, but to win the league with a 4-4-2 is still quite impressive. When we look at some of the other numbers to come out of the season, Gabriel Jesus would be the top goal scorer with 19 goals. Odegaard would lead the way for average ratings in 7.42 and Jesus 7.34. Assists, Martin Odegaard would lead there with 11 assists, and there would be 6 Player of the Match awards going the way of Gabriel Jesus. So we know they have done well in the league. Let's turn our attention to the other competitions that they would play in. So they would play in 3 other competitions, the first of which was the Champions League. They would get through to the quarter-finals where they would be knocked out by Real Madrid. In the FA Cup, they would get through to the 4th round where they'd be knocked out by Fulham, and they would go on to finish runners-up in the Carabao Cup. So once again, not impressive in terms of one-out knockout games in cup competitions, but we know that they are doing well when using this tactic in the leagues. Let's look at the data hub to see how the numbers would look across the season. So we would have goals per game of 2.21, conceded per game 1.05, shots per game 13.16, and pass completion ratio of 88.4%. Turning our attention then to the squad to see who has contributed the biggest numbers, we find Gabriel Jesus has gone on to score 29 goals across the season, and he would contribute 8 assists. You have Martinelli with 20 goals and 12 assists, Havertz with 17 goals and 6 assists, Sterling with 16 goals and 10 assists, Saka with 15 goals and 17 assists, Odegaard with 13 goals and 19 assists, and you'd have Reece Nelson further down with 13 assists. So what we can see here is that once again the attacking third of the pitch is where the goals and the assists are coming from. You have the two wider players with players like Sterling, Martinelli and Saka playing from the wings. You have good contributions from Odegaard, and you have players at the top of the pitch like Jesus and Havertz that are scoring goals. So all in all, Arsenal have done fantastic to go on and win the Premier League using a 4-4-2 tactic. So there we have it then. That is Grocks' interpretation of Arsene Wenger's legendary 4-4-2 tactics. Let me know in the comment section down below, did you call this one right? Did you think that we would have 2 of the 3 teams go on to win the league? Did you think Monaco would get anywhere near PSG? I know 10 points in reality is quite a distance away, but to finish second in the league is still quite impressive. What do you think of the cup competition performances? Me personally, I'm quietly impressed. I think this is certainly one of the better ones that the AI has thrown out, and it has worked well on the pitch. And yeah, once again, the cup competitions could be improved, but I think in knockout games, it's one of those where on the day if you don't turn up, you get punished, and that seems to be what has happened. So once again, let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts and opinions on the AI's performance. Whilst you are down in the comments section, don't forget to like this video and smash the subscribe button. Check out the rest of the AI Manager tactics.